Hello, everyone. I think it's going to be a small group, but that's fine because it's going to be kind of a fun social hour as we wrap up the academic school year, and we just kind of have a little bit of a debrief. So if you're joining us on Zoom, hello. If you're joining us on our Facebook Live in our Montessori Thrive group, welcome. I'm seeing most of the people here already have joined our town halls before, so they know how these run, but just today's is going to be more of a social. We wanted to have a lighthearted kind of debrief to sum up the 2021 to 2022 academic school year. There have been challenges, but I feel like a lot of schools really use this year as an opportunity to kind of come back from 2020, which was probably the most difficult year for any of us as school leaders. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. I did put together a presentation to kind of lead the conversation and ask some fun icebreaker questions. So I'll go ahead and share my screen here. All right, and I'll go ahead and put this on present. Right, so let's get started here. Celebrating the end of a successful school year. I hope this has been a successful school year for most of you. Again, this is going to be kind of a social, so feel free to utilize the chat. You can turn your cameras on or off. You can unmute yourself, whatever you're most comfortable with, but it's really an opportunity for you to get support. Yeah, so as I mentioned, these are our a safe space for Montessori leaders to come together and discuss important school leadership topics. Most of you have already been to a few, if not many, of our town halls, so you know how these go. Again, these take place weekly and are always free to join. So tell your fellow Montessori leader friends if anyone wants support and wants a space to talk to people, kind of that's not just a forum or Facebook group, it's just a little bit more one-on-one. So yeah. So first things first, I just want to ask the question, how are you all feeling, and feel free to use the chat or unmute yourself. There's a lot of uncertainty in the world right now, whether you're looking at the news or you're not, or you're just, focusing on your school community. So just let us know, how are you feeling? Are you feeling stressed? Are you feeling relieved? Are you looking forward to maybe if you aren't having a summer program and you're getting a little bit of a break? Just let us know in the chat, what are your initial thoughts and feelings coming into this meeting? I know for me, when I look at the news, I feel stressed, but then when I actually just look out my window or go out for a walk, I feel a bit happier.
Yeah, I think looking at the news these days can be a little disconcerting, but other than that, things seem, it's a nice time of year anyway right now. And I think it feels nice to have some summer months ahead here to kind of reset and regroup and all of that.
Yeah, I think the weather definitely impacts how people feel, at least for me. When the sun is out, I feel a lot better. So hopefully wherever you are, it's good weather. Another question I just want to ask, I want to check in on how people are doing, is how are things in your school community? Are they currently, stressful? Are things running smoothly? Have you been able to wrap up the year? I know some people are already on summer break. Some people are maybe working through the summer as they have summer programs. Let's talk about it. I'd love to see where everyone is kind of standing.
So there's only a couple of, of us on this call. So I just want to, we're just going to kind of have a conversation here today. It isn't anything that we're really, although I haven't seen all your slides, Camilla, but I just, we are looking for a little participation because, we're just trying to have a conversation really. So anyway, just wanted to throw that out. We're really here for you. So
Yeah, this is a moment to raise if there are any concerns in your school community, anything that you wanted to talk about or ask about. Let us know for sure. Ask us a question. I did put some fun icebreakers in here. I'm not sure how it'll do because we do have a pretty small group today, but I did some fun questions here. Like, what are your summer plans? What's your guilty pleasure at the moment? What are you watching, reading, or listening to lately? What's your drink of choice, or what will be your summer drink of choice? I know mine will be iced coffee during the day and maybe a margarita on the weekend.
I'll go ahead and add. So we're in the middle of our summer programming, so that's underway. I am trying to put together a few different processes for moving forward. I think like the big thing that I'm working on right now is my 5-year plan moving forward. So I think, yeah, there's some shift sets that are going on here internally. So I think that's probably the biggest thing for me. I've got the summer programming that's kind of on autopilot at the moment, and planning for the next 5 to 6 years.
Wow. So a lot of kind of operational, kind of reorganizing and looking at how you kind of run things throughout the school. Is that what you're using the summer for then?
Yeah, that, as well as what do we need to do to get to meet the goals that we have in these 5 to 6 years. So I'm putting together the timeline. I think, of course, as they say, plan and God laughs, but at the same time, putting a plan in place, it helps with the momentum moving forward. So if we do have those moments, then we'll be ready for them. But yeah, the trajectory hopefully will be in the same general direction. Guilty pleasures. You know what I love to do that's been like huge for me, and I know this isn't like all over, but if it's in your area, I highly recommend is Orange Theory, which is that high intensity interval training. I got started doing it before the pandemic, and then I had to stop 6 months in because of the pandemic. And then after getting vaccinated, I joined again. And so now I've been doing it for over about 1.5 years now. And I love it. It is so much fun. I love the competition. I love that I don't have my phone for an hour and nobody can contact me. And whenever I see any parents that join my gym, I go to a neighboring, because there's several in the area. I try to get parents not to chase me into Orange Theory. I really try to get away from everybody during that. And then my youngest son, who is 7, got into rock climbing. And so that now has me into rock climbing, and my daughter is into ice skating. So I'm ice skating and rollerblading with her. My eldest has been into soccer for a very long time, and I still have yet to, I have a fear of balls flying at my face, so I still won't do the soccer thing, but I am getting involved in some of these other things. I'm reading Into the Wild. I don't know if you saw the movie or read the book. It's a pretty short book, but it's super interesting. Sad, but interesting nonetheless. And I love, if only this child, if you were a child, the main character, Chris, if only his parents had given him more of a Montessori environment, I think he wouldn't have had a tragic demise, because he would have had this understanding and respect and appreciation of nature, and so he wouldn't, I feel like reading this, I'm like, oh my gosh, he just was so void of nature, and because of that, he had this need he needed to fulfill in his late adolescence, and because of that void and unappreciation, he had that tragic demise at the end. And I don't mean to give away the ending of the book, but they kind of tell you that it happens right on the cover of the page of the book. And drink of choice is coffee.
Gotta keep it going. Well, I love that you avoid parents at the gym. I think that's that's amazing. And that's probably good for your physical and mental health sometimes to kind of have that space of your own.
I feel
And
like they communicate to each other like, oh, we saw Melissa at this Orange Theory. And so then they start going to that one. And then I just switch studios.
oh no, you have to kind of move over to the next town and the next town eventually to just avoid that. No, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. And I love the parallel that you made as well with that book. I have seen the film, and now that you say it, I do agree with you on the Montessori points.
Yeah. I did Orange Theory also for several years. Actually, a good friend of mine who actually was a dad at my Montessori school. He and his wife owned the whole Orange Theory franchise in Northern New England, where I am. So that's how I got into it. And it's great. It's really great. I don't do it anymore because I joined I did it for many years, and it kind of got a little same-ish every time for me. So I joined a different gym now that still has classes, but it's a little bit different. But it's great. It was exactly what I needed at the time. So I hear you there. It's a nice little escape. And you really feel like you're kind of getting in your own little world when you're in there with the, the dark and the orange and all that. So I think it's great. So awesome. Thank you for sharing all that.
Anybody else want to share their summer plans or their guilty pleasures, what they're reading? I know what I'll be watching this weekend. I'll be watching Stranger Things. I don't know if anyone else is watching that. But yeah, there's lots of good stuff on. So, all right. If any of this comes to mind later, please feel free to share in the chat. We'll read it out, have a laugh, just conversation. I think it's nice to have these kinds of conversations every now and then with our catch-ups, because it's fun to see where people are at and get some good recommendations. All right. So yeah, thank you for sharing a little bit about yourself. Now that we're a little bit more acquainted, let's chat about this school year. As I said, this must have been a challenging year for many still. It's maybe not as challenging as 2020, but we've definitely probably all learned a few lessons and seen what we could have done better, or maybe what we did really well this year. So let's touch on that. So just a little school year debrief. Again, let's discuss what we've learned this year. So first off, did you have any particular challenges with staff or parents that you were able to overcome throughout your school year? Any stories you want to share? Again, we can learn from each other's experiences. So
I'll go ahead and start. Maybe other people will join. This school year, I want to say, was such a blessing compared to last school year. This school year, we have almost an entirely new staff, with the exception of one teacher. Last school year, we were in person, and at the beginning of the school year, I think we were the only school in the area that was in person. Everybody else was virtual. So a lot of people started coming in person as the school year went on, like around January, February time, but still, like, they didn't have everything in place. They weren't ready. I mean, it was a lot. Like, so we closed March of 2020, like everybody else did. We opened back up just for our youngest classes in June, and just had it as like a small incubator type of situation, so we could figure out all of these processes, so that in September, when we typically open up the school year, we had an idea. I don't want to say we knew what we were doing. I don't think anybody did, but I think we had an idea of what to expect, and we could communicate it with parents, teachers, etc., community, and we were ready as much as we could be in that September of 2020 through the 2021 school year. And when we were over the summer, when we were talking as a community, and when I say community, I mean the staff, everybody was on board for us being in person. They preferred it over virtual learning. Everybody, I mean, it was just like so super gung-ho, like excited about it. And then here we are, the only school in the district who was in person. And I think it freaked out the teachers. And plus on top of it, the amount of work, I mean, teaching is hard. Being a Montessori teacher is harder, I think. And then on top of it, doing it during a pandemic with all of these rules and regulations, all of a sudden it wasn't a Montessori guide anymore. And you were more of like a first responder / cleaning crews / very militantly, you guys can't be close to each other. You guys have to wear your masks, all of it. And it just took the joy that I think a lot of our teachers have for teaching, and it just took it zapped that part of the joy away. And so you really just had to lean into the joy of being around children. And I don't think that, I mean, we didn't, all of our teachers quit mid-school year. I had a hard time restaffing, making sure we were in compliance, and two, just had like, I mean, I wasn't even looking for quality staff anymore because it wasn't existent mid-school year. And so we were just having a warm body. Like, I hate having to say that, but that was the case. And so that was really, really rough for that year. And it was really rough. There was other complication that particular year for us. So moving into this school year, it was just such a nice relief and blessing. We got 100% new staff, and they are amazing Montessorians with many years of experience. They weren't coming in green. It was, and they wanted to be here for the joy of Montessori, but also the joy of the students and children. And it was just, it felt good, in spite of all the spikes. And, all last school year, we didn't have one single COVID case, not one. This year, we had our first COVID case in January where everybody got COVID. And then we had one a month for April, May, and June. So we never had an outbreak. I think we did everything the best we could. I'm really proud of everything that we were able to do. But I will say that this year has just been a nice little respite after 2 years of trauma. So I think, I'll stop there. But I think as far as challenges go, year prior was probably closer to what everybody's challenges are this year for everybody else.
That's good to hear. I'm going to backtrack a little bit on what you said about staffing, because it's so great that you were able to find great staff for this year. I'd love to hear more about maybe how your school was able to find staff, if you want to share some tips, because I know so many schools are struggling with finding trained Montessori staff. I think a lot of schools are still relating to maybe what you were experiencing the year prior, where they're just looking for someone who can just be in the classroom with the children at this point, because it's so difficult to recruit or to find trained guides. So how was your school able to achieve that?
Yeah, I think I can credit a couple of things to that. One, the interview process. I stopped asking how good they are at Montessori and asking more how much joy they get from children.
Okay.
I feel like if you enjoy being around children and you already identify as a Montessorian, then I can coach Montessori. I can't coach how to enjoy to be around children. And that, I think, was a big game changer for me, was just figuring that out. And then the other thing was so when we first started the school in 2014, had benefits for our teachers. That following year, those benefits more than doubled. It was crazy. And I could no longer provide the same benefits. So I had to go to the state provided benefits, or I don't know. It's a little weird. And whatever the state provided that we, it was part of our compensation package or benefits package, nobody liked, they didn't use, they didn't want to spend, like we were covering 80%. They still didn't even want to cover the 20%. I mean, it was so poor. It was such a bad and expensive, expensive, and nobody wanted to use it. So I took it away entirely. And so when we were interviewing, people would ask, well, what do you do for benefits? Right. Because we're competing with the public schools. And I said, look, this is why we don't provide it. But, if you can tell me how much it would cost you, to get benefits on your own, then I can, increase the salary by that amount of money. And that would be your benefit. And so that worked. But I think one of the big takeaways, in addition to all the stress, people were like, I'm not getting benefits. Anyways, it doesn't matter. Which was really hard to hear, because here I had done all these other things to try and, provide them benefits. I think it was, anyways, doesn't matter. But so all of a sudden I learned about this organization, and there's several of them out there, and probably you guys know all about it. And I had to learn about it the hard way. And it's called a PEO or something like that. Basically, we use a company called Insperity, but there's other ones out there. And it's an employee sharing type of thing. So small businesses, do you guys know about this, or am I no?
I don't know about this. So I'm learning. So I'm
okay.
This is great
So
information.
I'll tell you what let me get the actual term, because there's other out there. I don't want to necessarily tell you use this one, because there are
Yeah, it'd be great, because I know
that's right. It's called a PEO. Okay. Yeah. And so if you look up PEOs, you'll get a list of several of them. We use Insperity, and it's benefits, payroll, and HR administration. So, which is really amazing, because all of a sudden we can provide benefits that are on par with a bigger company or with, the state, and they get the same amount of coverage that they would, because small businesses, we get this, I don't know, horrible, benefit package, but bigger companies, you get those Cadillac ones, and we can now provide that to our staff, which is really nice. And they enjoy these benefits, and they have been this year. And it's not costing us a ridiculous amount of money. I mean, it is more expensive, but we were already incorporating that into their salaries. So, so it was already part of our budget. That's really great. Then on top of it, you can also add other things in addition to the health benefits. You can add, we don't have enough people who are interested yet, but I would love to start offering a 401k option, which we can do through this program. And then for hiring and firing, I work with them on it. And so, I've had to have the situation where we've had to let people go, and there's a lot of legal things that you have to jump over, and I have to contact my attorney, and my attorney has to get involved, which means I got to pay them hourly for this involvement, which I'm happy to do if I don't have to go to court on it. But it doesn't mean we're not going to go to court, because quite frankly, anyone can take you to court for any reason. And regardless of whether or not there's an actual reason. And so then I got to pay my attorney for that as well. Going with the PEO, they kind of walk me through the letting go process of an employee. And when push comes to shove, if they have an issue, the attorney's going to go after the big company because there's actually money to get that way. And so they'll go after Insperity or whoever you choose as your PEO, and they're less likely to come after little old me and my little school. So that is a huge comfort as well. So my big tip is the PEO and changing the way that I was interviewing.
Love that. I'm thinking here, I'm brainstorming, but maybe having a town hall in the future about this PEO would be really helpful, because I know a lot of schools struggle to offer benefits, and that's a main kind of issue when it comes to recruiting. So I'm glad you shared that. I'll do a little more research and see what I can share with the community, because that sounds great. Yeah, that's great. Thank you for sharing, Melissa. Does anyone else want to share their challenges they were able to overcome? I see here in the chat, Elizabeth said that would be great. Okay, great. So I'll see if maybe when we pick these town halls up again, if we could have someone who maybe from one of these PEO groups or companies can come in and speak on it. Would love that. So I'll make a note of that for a future town hall. Okay. I guess I'll move over to question 2. What are you most proud of this year? Feel free to brag. Again, this is a safe space. We're here to applaud each other on school leadership accomplishments. So it sounds like Melissa had a smooth year and great staffing and things like that. So I think that's a lot to be proud of. If anyone else wants to share their proud moments of the school year. It can even be, maybe you started a waiting list, maybe you kept enrollment really high this year. You had new tours consistently throughout the year. Things like that are also great to look at. I know some schools launched new programs in our community. They've posted in our forums and our groups that they've been able to maybe expand into lower elementary or open up a new program. Any of that here?
Elizabeth, you moved into a new location, didn't you? I think that was maybe the year before last, but that's a big, big undertaking.
Hi. Yes, we did. We moved in, and lots of hiccups and things were ironing out along the way, but we did a lot of staffing challenges, and like I think some of you all were discussing, I had high school friends that sent their children to Montessori, volunteer to jump in and help out, which was super sweet. And someone whose son went to our school, was in between jobs, and he jumped in, and that was super sweet. But we seemed to, we made it through and opened up. For this coming September, we have filled a second classroom and have filled our 3-day toddler and our 2-day toddler. So now we're just kind of gearing up to onboard a lot of staff. And so, Melissa, that's why that was really great for you to hear, for me to hear, because we've been struggling with all of those HR issues because we're so small. And I'm sorry, I didn't hear everything in the very beginning, but Melissa, is your school large or smaller?
No, we're small. So part of the challenges that we had among the typical COVID ones, our landlord decided to sell his property to a developer, and we were given essentially 3 months notice. So we had to move. And I know for a fact, based on evidence that I've seen and I had known for a very long time, that any move, which we were planning on doing anyways, was going to mean that we were going to lose a significant number of our population. But because we really only had 3 months notice, we really could only give our our family saw it too. And so they lost confidence, in the school. And so this year was tiny. But last year, when we were having all of the issues with staffing, we're just a small school anyway. So.
Okay, thank you. It sounds similar.
Okay. All right. Final question of our little school year debrief. What mistakes did you make this year, and what have you learned from them? Let's learn from each other's mistakes so that we don't have to make the same ones. Or maybe you just had a really smooth year, which was good. I think we all deserved that after the challenge so that 2020 brought. All right, well, if anything comes to mind, feel free to unmute yourself or drop anything in the chat. We'll move on for now. The next part I wanted to focus on is setting some new intentions for the following school year. I think it's great to do this. So first and foremost, are there any operational changes you'd like to make at your school? And Melissa touched on it, that she's doing her whole timeline. But things like parent ed, maybe your enrollment process, things like classroom management. Are you looking to use maybe classroom management software, or how you're going to reorganize that, how you're going to structure staff meetings? Are there any changes that you are looking to implement?
A few questions, actually. So I am making a lot of changes here operationally. But there's a lot of these little annoying things, right, that I'd like to streamline. One of those annoying things, it's that gnat that's buzzing in your ear, is the parents are communicating that they don't know what's going on at the school, which is really frustrating because we give them so many different kinds of ways. We send out a weekly email. We send home in their lunchbox a weekly letter. We have the calendar that we send out the year before. There's all we have a little thing that they can put on a magnet on their refrigerator. There's all these ways to try and get them to know what the calendar is. And then, we have a day off, and I hear from parents, we didn't know there was a day off. Or we didn't know about the Christmas pageant, or, whatever. But, and so this year, one of the things that I'm trying to do, and I don't know if it's going to work. So if anyone has a solution, I would love, before I really invest in this solution that I've come up with. So do you remember back in the day, you would get one of those 12-month calendars that flip on the spiral, and it's got a picture on it. And then on the days of the week, it has the holiday. So it's not digital. It's very that's what I'm creating at the moment, is a flip calendar that they can have. Because we already, a year out, we already have everything that's going to happen at the school. So there's no reason why we can't schedule a whole year out on a calendar and give them a hard copy calendar that's spiral bound. Is this going to work, or is this a waste of money? I don't know, or is there a solution that are you guys not hearing that people don't know what's going on when? Okay.
Have you asked your parents? If a hard copy calendar would be something that they would find helpful?
So I've asked them, and they all have different answers, right? I send home a survey, what's the best way to communicate with you, right? And I get a million different ways, right? And I can't, as an only person here, I can't do a million ways to communicate, right? So some people would prefer an email, some people would prefer a hard copy, some people prefer a text message, some people would prefer a face-to-face contact. Everybody has this way that they need to know. So I haven't actually say, hey, would this be helpful? Like, would this flip calendar, old school version of a calendar be helpful? Some people want like Google like invites. You know, so I don't know what else to do. Like, if there was like a system that works, that would be wonderful.
Do you use like a CRM or a software like that that maybe automatically texts parents or sends out email automations about events or reminders? Like I know Remind 101 as well for some schools.
Yeah, so we do all of that. We have the Google Calendar and we have the Remind system. And then we do like I said, just an email, hey, this is what's coming up once a week. So they know to expect it every Friday. And then every Monday we send home a newsletter that has all the calendar items in it. And then we ask our teachers to let the parents know, like when they're sending their weekly emails to the parents, to also include things that are coming up, because maybe they're not opening admin email, but they certainly are opening teacher emails. You know, so I don't know.
It's a really like age-old problem. It's not, you're not alone. And I know like you feel like you tell them every, 7 different ways and they still are saying, I didn't know about that. I know one thing we did at our school is, do you run like a car, we used to call it carpool line, where parents line up to pick up their kids. We had a sandwich board out that had like, if there was something coming up, an event or something, and we literally like just put it so that they would see it, as they were picking their child up from school. Like, hey, remember there's, the whatever, Thanksgiving celebration is coming up next week, and put a date on it or something like that, just to, but you're still emailing them and maybe texting them, and have a Google Calendar that they can find and stuff. But and at some point, the parents themselves have to take some, this is how I feel, have to take some responsibility to read the emails that you're sending and be, responsible in terms of staying abreast of what's going on at their child's school, right? So,
well, yeah, I think like part of it, I will say this, because this is my husband talking, so you know where this is coming from. There's too many events, but and that's my husband's criticism. So, but I don't think we can thin out the number of events, because we do monthly parent workshops, and that's how we retain. That's a huge part of our retention program. And so I don't know where I would thin there. And then we have several events through the year that's fundraising. So I can't thin that out because our budget requires, needs that fundraising money. And then we have our monthly parent association meetings. So I can't thin that. I mean, so essentially and then we have our just fun events, that the kids love. I mean, the children really love, and the students really love, and they look forward to these events. So I would feel bad if that's the part that I start thinning out, are the fun, Easter egg event and the Christmas pageant and the spring variety show and the jogathon. Those are ones that I don't want to thin out. So I don't know where I would thin the number of events out. Right. Because we still need the parent engagement, and we need the retention. We need the fundraising. And
you do, I know one time we polled our parents and they felt like, and I don't know what your fundraising is like, but they said, you know what, rather than doing whatever, half a dozen fundraisers over the course of the year, let's just do one big one. And kind of just focus all our efforts on that, so that it's not feeling like every month there's a new ask to a parent?
Yeah, so I will say that I have a background in fundraising, and I 100% agree with that. That is where I have always felt that we need to just have like a big ask, and I just call and say, hey, like we're fundraising, and and just make it very personal, like call, an email and letter and et cetera, like, and you just do it that way. But these are the parents that are initiating these events.
Yeah.
And so,
But you can,
yeah.
I mean, we had that kind of going on too. And if
Oh, okay.
fundraising, then I'm not telling you anything you don't, you probably know more about it than I do, but it just felt like every parent kind of had their, oh, I really love doing box tops. I don't know if anybody really loves that, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I really, and they want to head that up. And then another parent really wants to do this. And you don't want to squash the enthusiasm. But on the other hand, you also don't want to have all these little fundraisers out there for all, so I think maybe, I don't know, we formed a fundraising committee, and then that committee, and they had the charter of like, okay, we're going to do maybe 2 smaller fundraisers and then the big one, and so like they could kind of get together and vote and decide which one. And the ones who are really gung-ho about certain ones, are the fundraisers that actually happened. But again, that's just addressing one of the many events that you have going on at your school too. So it's not like it's a huge dent in your calendar. But
what do you think is a typical amount of like events per month?
I don't know. Anybody else want to chime in? I remember. Well, we would have just 2 or 3 parent education evenings a year. And we learned that we really had to have them like before March, because parents just kind of lost interest towards the end of the school year. And this was all pre-COVID when I was in the school. So these were in-person evening parent events. And then we just did the one big fundraiser, and then we maybe had a couple others. And then, and then there was just sort of a cadence every year of certain events that the children were really involved with. And that was probably almost 1 a month, I would say. So, I mean, it is a lot. A school, especially if you have multiple programs. I don't know if you have.
We do, yeah.
It does end up being a lot. And I can see where, parents feel maybe sometimes a little overwhelmed with everything that's going on. But, I think your calendar idea is a good one. If it's something that's, substantial with this binding and stuff, it won't get lost on the desk on a, just a paper handout would, it could be something that they would hang on to and have as a reference. But you also have to have it online somewhere too, because there's going to be parents who are, I don't know.
I think also what a lot of, oh, sorry, Camille, finish that thought.
No, I just was going to say, anybody else have ideas?
What some schools do, and of course this is, completely optional, but again, it never hurts to put the message out there in as many platforms as you can. So, those parents who, I feel like as parents get younger, they are maybe more active on different platforms. I think a lot of times they don't read emails because they're probably so, they get so many emails from work every day that I think that some of them just fall through the cracks. So it's sometimes hard to communicate through there. You're definitely not the only school to express issues with this, because I know that we send out newsletters, emails, text reminders, and it still doesn't seem to be enough. It can't hurt to share on social media, Facebook groups. I'm sure you're already doing this. If you have a school Twitter, anything like that, because it might just be an additional way to reach parents, and especially just to show off your school events as well. I think it's good, and it kind of encourages parents to pay attention on those platforms if they're active on them. So it can never hurt. And again, it's free and you own those platforms. Just make sure if you post any pictures of the kids or if you're using any of that, just to get those photo releases, if you have platforms for that. But yeah, I would say never hurts. Any other ideas, comments on that? Any other kind of operational changes that you want to make? I think that's a good one to hone in on, is parent communication. It's always a challenge.
I just remember another thing we did at our school is we bought a bunch of I think they were like fluorescent yellow, big, like large, extra large t-shirts. And they said, and the teachers would wear them at carpool line if we didn't put out, and it said like, ask me about what's happening tomorrow or something like that. And they would only wear it on days when there was an event happening, and they would just throw them on over their jackets or whatever at carpool line. And they worked really well, because then the parents said, oh, the teachers are all in fluorescent green t-shirts. So there must be something happening tomorrow or tonight or something. So anyway, go ahead, Camilla.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, no, I didn't have anything else to add to that that conversation. I just hope that you're able to get parents. It is a challenge, and you're definitely not alone, Melissa. You're definitely not the only one. It's not an isolated issue at all.
Well, I do want to say, like, if anybody is having issue with this, one thing that has been, well, two things that have been amazing for recruitment that we have implemented that's going so well. We offer the option of doing virtual and in-person tours, and parents love the virtual tours. And so I created basically like a PowerPoint on Google presentations, I think is what it's called. And so I set up a Zoom, I bring in basically what you did, but the way that I created the presentation, it's like a picture, and then I click on the different parts of that picture, and it takes me to different programs or different offerings or amenities or etc. And so it's very interactive that way. And so if they have a question, I can just point on a different part of my map, that first presentation page, and they just think it's the funnest thing in the world. Oftentimes I get the compliment of saying this is the best virtual tour we've done, and it was probably like, let's say 4 hours of work, but I haven't had to redo it. Like, it's just it's done. Once it's done, it's done. And that has been amazing. The other thing that has been amazing is, and I know you guys talk about this a lot, I didn't necessarily appreciate it, and I know that I'm not necessarily using it to my full potential, is the HubSpot. I love that. What's been really nice about HubSpot, one of the features that I love, well, there's two features that I love about HubSpot. I love being able to track every single deal. So when you go under sales, there's like the deal page, and you can have like this visual of where you are with all your deals. And then the other thing I love about it is the template email pages. So on the template email page, I have where they are in the deal. So let's say the initial inquiry. So inquiry, I have 7 different emails that I send in consecutive order. So I have inquiry number 1, and then the title of it, inquiry number 2, the title of it, inquiry number 3, title of it, and I have 7 of them, and I send them once a week. And then if they go from inquiry to tour, then I have 7 different tour emails that I will send them once a week. Like, you take this great tour. This is what makes Waterfront Academy so special, right? And I get through those. And then once they've applied, then I have 7 more emails that I can send them. And on the last email, that 7th email is always like, how can I help? Like, obviously you read through the last 6 and it wasn't very interesting to you. Let me know if you have any questions. And I send them to like the at-risk part, like a dump. And here's what's been so interesting about this. So when they're in the at-risk dump, like say, like whenever I have like a few moments, I'll go through there and just say, hey, we've got a spot for your child, or hey, I'm just thinking about you, or I don't know, if I got something in the notes about them, I might say, hey, how's Aunt Sally? I know she was sick. Whatever, they tell me so many different things, and I put them all in the notes, and then and I just follow up and see how they're doing. And then like any of the deals that I have lost, I do that once a year. I spend one day once a year and I go through all the ones that I've lost. And I'm like, hey, just seeing how school's going at da 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 da, and just to follow up. And like, it is so crazy because of all of these emails. I mean, they probably at the end of the day have gotten, I don't know, 50 emails, which seems obnoxious to me. But and to them, it probably seems like just a handful. And then they come back to me like out of nowhere and they're like, hey, we're interested, and they'll apply and, sign on the dotted line. And so they all of a sudden so HubSpot has been like amazing. And I know there's so much more I can do in that tool and I haven't figured it out yet, but the things that I am doing there, I love. And then this virtual thing. Oh my gosh, the amount of time I spent in doing tours that were so fruitless, like, I don't mind doing them virtually. Like it's such, and the parents love it too. Like they just love that, the ability to not have to come in.
Yeah, definitely. It can be life-changing to have automations and that they also work, around the clock. And as you mentioned, I think email nurtures, that is a big game changer for schools, because you never know when parents have you in the back of their head and they just need that final push or reminder to get them to finally enroll or sign up. You might just be sending an email automatically at a time that they were thinking about it. So it's good to have those things kind of running in the background. So yeah, for those of you who don't maybe have any automations or CRM working, then you should definitely consider it. Maybe if you have some time this summer to learn how to use it, to implement it, as Melissa said, it's great. All right, I'm going to ask a little bit about any implementations or changes that you want to make in your workplace culture. I know burnout has been a big issue at schools, but I think this year has been slightly easier than the last year, but still there might be some things that you may want to change in your community, or maybe things that are working great. So any comments on that? Any ideas? All right, well, if anything comes to mind, or if you want to talk further on this, you can also use our forums or our Facebook group, or just comment in the chat later on. And then just the final question on setting new intentions. I guess this is more personal, but yeah, how will you try to make time for yourself and find support as a school leader? I know it can get lonely at the top, whether it's seeking a consultant to come and help you, just stepping back throughout the day, having, at least one break to kind of recharge, things like that. If anything has helped you as a leader, feel free to share. You can also join our town halls, which we have weekly, if you need a space to kind of ask questions or share any advice. All right. All right, so what can you update this summer? We talked about a little bit about this, but again, staffing and operations things, as Melissa mentioned. I see something in the chat here. Shauna says, thank you for the town halls. You're welcome. And we definitely will be continuing them when the next academic year picks up, because we love just checking in with you guys and offering you some resources. Another thing you can kind of figure out and update over the summer that you may not have time when the school year picks up again and things get really hectic. Parent communication and education. It's great that Melissa's asking these questions about, how can we get parents to see what we're putting out there, things like that. You can kind of see how you can improve or change. Obviously, nothing's ever going to be 100%, but it's good to assess. And again, marketing your school website, ads, tours. It's a great time to tweak these things in the summer. When it comes to ads, you should be running them year round anyways. But it's a great time to kind of see, have they actually increased your enrollment for the year? Have they actually helped out your school? Are you reaching the right family? So it's a good time to assess these things.
Question on staffing operations. So regarding just, okay, so I feel like at the beginning of the school year, I go through everything, you know, so basically I've got 2 weeks and I'm like doing first aid, CPR, fire drills, like, you know, all that with the teachers, like, here's our, these are what the expectation settings and things like that, like going through their curriculum with them. You know, we're a Montessori school. Everybody here's a Montessori teacher, but let's just talk about what that means, like those kinds of things. And then like, I don't know, maybe like December or January, like all of that goes out the window. Like, it's like, where have they been for the last 4 months? I don't know. And like, and it's super frustrating because I know that I talked about it. I know that it's written. I know that, like, I know where they can find it if they had a question, like all of this. And so one of the things that I wanted to do, because this summer is, because I know that at like a lot of big companies, they have this. So like what they'll do is they'll like have these videos, and it basically says like all of this in a video. Like you can pull up the sexual harassment video and find out what sexual harassment looks like and what, you know, the do's and don'ts and whatever. So how do people have like videos like that where we talk about like, this is what Montessori looks like, these are the times that you can use your cell phone, you know, or I don't know, whatever. Is that like a thing or is that not a thing? And if it is a thing, is there like already a program out there so I'm not recreating any wheels here?
I'm sure there is a program out there. So if anyone who's in the school leadership space wants to comment on that, but I think that's a great point is to maybe, I don't know if you want to make it a staff meeting or maybe just kind of record a video basically saying these are the expectations that we expect, and kind of touch base on it at the beginning of the year and maybe halfway through when people start maybe not getting too comfortable, or maybe just, you know, forgetting, and obviously coming back from winter break, maybe they picked up some habits and then forgot to leave that at home and then bring it into the workplace. So just kind of reassessing those things.
Yeah, so that's normal though. Is that normal where teachers forget?
In my experience working in a classroom, yeah. I've seen it happen. I'm not sure if it was just, you know, again, I don't think it's an isolated incident. It doesn't make it any better. I'm sure it's still a challenge, you know, but I think that, yeah, it happens in pretty much any, I think, workspace. And I think in Montessori, it's really important to yeah, just make sure that everybody in the community is on board, because that's what it kind of takes to have an authentic Montessori classroom, is to have staff, you know, not on their phones, parents, you know, adhering to these rules in the I just, you know, we're under the oversight of so many people, right? And like anything, and we have, and I get it, like we have like these beautiful precious treasures in our, you know, in our care, and so there's just, you know, allergies, right? Or it's just, it's hard to make sure that everybody's in compliance with all of these expectations and regulations and requirements and just safety. And so, and it's a load to bear as the leader here. So
So I get super frustrated, right? And so I don't, so if I could just like point to something, like, look at this. And I do know that at other places they have that. I just wasn't sure if there was already something I'll have to create. If I create it, I'll share it.
I think, I'm not sure if it's in the Montessori Thrive collection or not, but I know at the school I worked at previously, we had an agreement, like an employee agreement that we had to sign about expectations during working hours, like not a strict, no, not allowed to be on phones unless you're contacted for an emergency, which they can contact the office and we'll get to you immediately with that information. And then for things like allergens and classroom safety, obviously, I'm sure you already have this in your school, but lots of infographics and things like that accessible in the classroom so that they can constantly check. And maybe a good refresher though, maybe a meeting twice a year to kind of just reiterate these things is important. But yeah, I completely understand where you're coming from. We have here a question from Shauna. What do other schools have in their tour folders to give to parents? Anyone want to comment on that?
Posted, we had a blog on that not long ago, so I just posted a link to that, which is on our regular site. It's not on Thrive. So
I know one thing that we have on our collection is the tour checklist. So just things that you want parents to really make a notice of so that they can make sure every point has been covered. So I'm not sure if that's helpful, if any school has something like that when they do tours.
So I just wanted to do a time check here. I do have another meeting, and I'm the host of this one, so we have to wrap it up pretty quick here. So we can go tell another 5 or 10 minutes. I just wanted to let you know.
I'll just go ahead then. And again, if you have any comments, this is exactly where you need to go. We have our Facebook group, which is Montessori Thrive. So if you want to ask any questions, touch base with other leaders, or get updates on future town halls, join our Facebook group. We also have our private forum for those of you who are Montessori Thrive members. If you want to ask maybe a bit more sensitive questions, you don't want a parent finding what you're saying or things like that, it's very private. There are no parents in our Thrive website. We also have a LinkedIn group. If you Google if you search Montessori Thrive on LinkedIn, you'll find our group. It's a great place to network, find consultants, and again, get updates on our events. Just wanted to pause quickly for our resource library. Again, we have a bunch of resources on Thrive. If you're looking to redo your operations or things like that, we have enrollment resources, contracts, handbooks, photo releases, email templates, staffing resources. We have job descriptions, things like that ready for you. Parent communication as well, whether you need presentation slides for parent ed meetings, communication templates, email nurture templates, marketing resources as well. So we've got you covered if you need any resources. Also, if you need a resource, you can request one on Thrive for those of you who are members. Again, this is a year-round community. We will be wrapping up our town halls for the summer. So our next one will be September 1st. So we'll be back when you guys are back for the new school year. But our forums and our groups are open year-round, 24/7 pretty much. So if you want to ask a question, you're more than welcome to. And we look forward to seeing you guys again for future town hall meetings in September. So September 1st, we'll have a speaker here. So we're looking forward to that. If you have any future suggestions for town halls, any topics that you want, I know Elizabeth already said about the PEO that Melissa mentioned, so I'll look into how we can do that. But if there's any ideas that you have, please contact me or say so in the groups or forums, because I do organize these around your needs. We want to have advice and expertise that will help you as a school leader. And we always keep these meetings free. So anyone is welcome to suggest a topic or maybe a speaker that they'd like to see at a future town hall. All right. And then just 3 things that I hope that you guys all get to do this summer. Disconnect from work completely when possible, whether that's on the weekends or maybe you have a week off. focus time on a hobby that you enjoy, and prioritize your mental and physical health, and keep avoiding parents at Orange Theory. I love that. But yeah, so hopefully you can do these things this summer, and we want you to take care of yourself because you do so much for your community and for Montessori. So your work is valuable. All right. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, please contact me directly. I shared my email before, or join our groups because I'm always on there. So yeah, thank you for joining and sharing a little bit about your year. Have a great week, and we'll see you back for a town hall in September. All right. Bye, everyone.